So I'll start off with a basic overview of what a lot of you were not there in the previous class. So I'll start off with a basic overview of what we studied in the last class, and then we'll talk about more things that we're going to cover today. Okay. So that we did not cover a lot of things in the first class. We covered about the basics of what physics is and what the forces. So we were just starting off. We were just discussing what momentum is. All right. So here we have a meme to start the class off. So why is it so easy to stay awake until 6 a.m. and so hard to wake up at 6 a.m.? Are you guys early risers or early sleepers? So are you early risers or late risers? Or late sleepers? Early. Okay, Maniratna is an early riser. I am a very late sleeper. I can actually stay awake until 6 o'clock. Okay, Mayuk, Kaushik, Yarlot, or how late? How late? Is it like 2 a.m., 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m.? What late? Okay, so Mayuk is like 2 a.m. Okay. So I'll tell you one very interesting thing. I was a sort of late sleeper. So I used to sleep around 1:30, 2. So that was what used to happen around 9, 10. But then in class 11th, what really happened was I moved away from my school. So Ritam sleeps at 4 a.m. sometimes. I sleep at 7 a.m. sometimes. So that's better than me, at least. So I'm that late asleep. There have been times when I have slept at 11 a.m. in the morning. So, so yeah. So this is what happened. So when I was in class 11, so we moved away from our school. Okay. So it used to take me 1.5 hours to go to my school, 1.5 hours to come back from my school. Right. And 11, 12, you have to study a lot. You have to be in your fresh mind. It's very different from class 9, 10. It's a bit more critical, a bit more complicated. It's a lot more interesting. So that's the key part about 11th and 12. But you need to be at your full sense when you're studying, right? So what I used to do when I used to come back from school, I used to be very, very tired because 8 hours of schooling, 3 hours of traveling, that's बच्चे को मारोगे क्या वाला scene हो जाता. So I used to leave for school at 6 o'clock, reach back around 3:30. So after that, I used to have my lunch, sleep at 4 o'clock, wake up at 12 o'clock. And then I used to study from 12 to 6. Or why only study? I used to study, watch movies, read novels, whatever I wanted to do, I used to do at night. So my breakfast was was the usual dinner of the family. My lunch was the breakfast of the family, and my dinner was the lunch of the family. So I had a very weird sleep cycle back then. So somehow that has stayed back. I manage my sleep better now, but yeah, my sleep cycle is horribly weird. So it's very, very weird. Yeah. So coming back to the meme. So this when do we go off track? So why is it so easy to stay awake until 6 a.m.? Because an object in motion stays in motion. And why is it difficult to wake up at 6? Because an object in rest stays at rest. So this is what Newton's law is telling us. This is a small joke, unrelated joke, but I found it very interesting. I just came across this day before yesterday. So I thought I should put it in the class. Then actually one of my teachers had sent this to me. One of my teachers back from class 11, 12, he used to teach in EduTime. So he sent this meme to me. So he knew about my bad sleep cycle. Anyway. Yeah. So what we discussed about physics and force in the last class is we talked about somebody called Richard P. Feynman, who was one of the greatest scientists of all time, and he has been one of the best physics professors of all time. And what he used to say that physics is all about observation, inference, theory, and experimentations. And he had a very good metaphor. He had a metaphor about a person who does not know what chess is all about, and he used to use this metaphor to explain what physics is all about. So in case you were not there in the last class, I find this reasoning metaphor very, very interesting, and this is how I really relate to physics because of this metaphor. I would request you to go through the class video of the last class in case you are not there. So the video is available on the EduTime Learning Companion app, so you can access it over there. And one small mistake I did in informing you that I told that the most famous living scientist is Stephen Hawking. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2018. I missed to tell you that. So again, Stephen Hawking is one of the most recent successors of Richard P. Feynman. He is one of the most famous scientists of all time, of the recent times. And Richard P. Feynman, Stephen Hawking, all of them used to hold that same university position that Einstein used to hold. So we talked about all the things that these two scientists have done and what they have contributed to physics. We talked a bit about classical physics. We touched upon what relativity is, what quantum mechanics is. We got a bit lost in between when we were talking about speed of light. And then Sankirtans was there in the last class who had asked a very interesting question that I did not know the answer of. So he had posted about that in the forum. So I don't know how many of you have read that. Maniratna and all who were there in the last class, have you read that answer in the forum about speed of light being broken apparently and there being a research paper about it? Have you guys? Yes. So did you find any insight into say anyway? So if you have not, you can read that. It's a very long post that I made. I put in whatever I had studied about the topic after this question was posed. So yeah, you can. I found it very interesting, and that's why I posted about it. So you can read it. If you have any counter questions, we can discuss it in the forum itself instead of wasting the time of the class. Then we just touched upon Sir Isaac Newton, his contributions to physics. You guys were supposed to send me an assignment that you have not, in which you were supposed to list down all the contributions of Sir Isaac Newton in the realm of physics and math. So I'll again ask you to do that. Just Google up, find out all his contributions in physics and math. You'll find out how much this single individual has contributed to physics and maths. It's a really interesting thing to read and study. And so that is my number. That is my WhatsApp number. You should ideally write about it, find out what his contributions were, and send it to me, where we can discuss about it in a better way once you have gone through it and once you have some understanding what this guy has done. We talked about how to write definitions. When I talk about force or when I talk about momentum, you should not say momentum is mv. That is a bad way to define it. So we talked a bit about how to write definitions ideally, and then we talked about what momentum is actually. And one of the things that I said was one way that my father used to explain it to me, a politically incorrect way, in which he used to say the potential of my thappar hitting you and hurting you is the momentum that my hand has. So in other words, the amount of impact in politically correct words, so if an object hits another object, the measure of impact, the amount of impact that object will have upon getting hit or upon hitting another object is the qualitative understanding of momentum. And we all know about this scientific or mathematical expression, m into v. So we're going to talk more about it today. And then we talked about something called SpaceX and how they are getting their rockets back and why that is, how they're trying to colonize Mars, how they're using the concepts of inertia, momentum, and force, simple concepts to create a groundbreaking technology that is taking us leaps and bounds beyond where we were. So we discussed all this. Is there any question from last class from those people who were there in the last class? Then we can discuss about it, or then I can move on. Unless there is any question, I'll move on. Yes, so I was asking everyone to get one piece of paper, one glass, and a few coins, right? So we'll be studying the Newton's laws of motion, and I really love to start off with this experiment, with this activity rather, not an experiment, it's an activity. So we'll do that activity, and that will actually help us understand a lot of concepts. So instead of going through slides, if we spend that equivalent amount of time doing this activity, you'll actually learn a lot more. So do you guys have this, a glass, some coins with you, and a piece of paper? If you don't, I will do the activity for you, and you can always repeat the activity after the class is over, and we can discuss about this. All right, so Purnima has it, so she can possibly, Purnima and Maniratna have it. All right, great. Others, even if you do not have these things with you, not an issue. I will show you the video while I conduct the experiment live or the activity live. You can repeat the experiment at your own home. You should definitely do it because once you do that activity, whatever I'm going to show, you get a better hang of the concepts of inertia, momentum, and all that. Okay. So what we need is a tumbler, a glass, rather Bangla the glass bola hai. We'll need some coins. Okay. We'll need a piece of paper. In case you do not have a piece of paper, you can cut it out of a copy. That is also okay. And we'll need a will to win over the world twice. So this is a joke. This is nothing there. So first, I want you to commit to this experiment. Okay, commit to this entire activity. So what we are going to do, we are simply going to place the paper. So we are simply going to place the paper on the glass, and then we are going to position one coin above it. Okay. And once we are done, we are going to flick this paper out. Have you understood what the activity is about? It's a very simple activity. We are going to put the piece of paper. The piece of paper should be big enough to cover the glass. Okay. So we will put the piece of paper to cover the glass. Then we'll put a coin. Then we'll put a coin above the glass, above the piece of paper, and then I'll just flick it. So did you see what happened? I'll actually make the video better. Wait, I'll stop my screen sharing. I'll switch on the video in my tab. It's not really visible. Wait a minute. Is the glass visible now? Let me pin this video. Is this glass visible to everyone? What I'm doing is I'm covering the glass with the piece of paper. I'm covering the glass with the piece of paper. I'm positioning one coin above it. Okay. I'm positioning a coin above it, and I'm then simply flicking the paper away. And what we have over here is the coin fell down. I'll repeat that experiment with not visible. Okay. Is it visible like this? I don't know how to position it now. Yeah. I'll put the paper over the glass. I'll cover the glass. I'll put some, sorry. I put the paper over the glass. I put a coin above it. Now the next step is I'll just use my hand to flick the paper. So the paper turned back, but I have both the coins inside. If you really want to impress your kid, brother and sister, if you have any, or your cousins, this is a really good trick. My sister used to love this trick when she was very, very young and I was in class 11th and 12th. So I used to keep doing this and she was extremely excited by this small trick. Is this clear? Can you see? Have you seen this experiment? Have you been able to do this activity? Wherein the coins are always falling down. The coins are not flying with the paper. I'll put more coins. Try to see if the weight of the coin was less and that is why they were not flying with the paper. I'll put in as many coins as possible. And I simply flick the paper. Have you been able to see the experiment, the activity? What exactly is happening? Have you been able to do the activity yourself? Great, great. So now what I want you to think about in through the duration of the class, even after the class, is why exactly is this happening? Why is the coin not flying away along with the paper? If I put more coins, so Ayush is saying that the coin is actually in the inertia of rest, right? So that is one explanation that Newton gave. Can there be any other explanation? Can I say that there can be multiple? So this is one of the explanations that Newton gave for this phenomenon. He called it inertia of rest. Can we have any other explanation for this simple activity? This is something that I want you to ponder upon. And I'm telling you, the answer is not very clearly inertia of rest. Inertia of rest is an acceptable answer, absolutely. So what is happening? The coin stays back while the paper is going over here. The coin stays back, and since after that the paper is not there, it falls down. So that can be said it is because of inertia of rest. But there can be multiple other explanations to it also, if you think about it logically. There is no correct answer or wrong answer in physics. It's all about observation, inference, then theorizing, and then testing out this theory. We talked about this in the last class, right? So what Ayush said, that his inference or theory is that this is happening because of the inertia of rest of the coin. So that is one accepted theory and one accepted inference. However, so that is an accepted theory. He has simply directed, skipped over the inference phase. There can be, what exactly are the inferences that you get? What are the inferences that you get when you actually do this experiment? What are the things, what are the thoughts that are occurring in your brain? Unlearn everything that you have learned about Newton's laws of motion. Unlearn about, do not remember anything that you have learned about inertia, momentum, anything at all. Okay. You just have to think like an independent observer, What, right? You feel something when you are in a bus or a train. I understand that, but I'm saying, instead of directly jumping to the theory, I want you to really think about it from first principle basis, assuming that you do not know anything about the Newton's laws of motion, anything about inertia. And I want you to come up with some inferences, and I want you to come up with some theories of your own, if possible. Or if it seems that your inferences are actually directing only towards inertia of rest or motion, that is also acceptable. There is no problem in that also. But I really want you to put in that effort to come up with different theories. And what do I want you to do? So the assignment is here. So the assignment is, so ever since I've been teaching, I was in class 11, 12 until from 2009 to 2011. This is my class 12 ended year. I have been teaching students right from 2011. So Aishi is saying that something, so right. So there can be a lot of inferences from this small activity. I want you to not get limited by what you have studied so far. I want you to be very creative over here. I want you to list down all the inferences that you can list down, right? And then I want you to take up the role of a teacher, because I think that teaching always makes us learn better. Right, man. I do not want you to share it right now. So this is what we are going to do. So I have been teaching right from 2011, just after my class 12. And I had been teaching in EduTime from 2011 to 2013. After that, I went back to KGP, focus purely on my studies, and I'm back again right now in 2021. So I have learned more as a teacher than as a student. All right, so I want you to take up the role of a teacher. What you do this activity, take a video of yourself doing this activity, explain to, so assume that you are explaining it to 5-year-old kids. Okay, assume you are explaining it to 5-year-old class 5 kids. Explain this activity, how you're going to do it, how you're doing it, explain each step of the video, do this experiment, then explain your inferences and theory of why this is happening. And I really want you to share this video either with me on WhatsApp, or if you guys are using Facebook and Instagram, if you guys use Facebook and Instagram, you can tag EduTime after uploading it over there. And my Instagram handle is the True Vampire. So you can tag me there also. Okay, so, but I really genuinely want you guys to do this. Do not follow me now. You note it down. Do not go out of the Zoom application right now. But yeah, I want you guys to actually take this activity seriously and focus more on this. First, once you have listed down everything that is to be listed down. Oh, all right, Maniratna. So once you have listed down everything that is there to be listed down, actually make a video of yourself doing this activity. Explain it in the video like you would explain it to a class 5 student. Okay, because they do not know anything about Newton's laws of motion. You have to explain it to them. So that is the target audience. And then you have to explain your inferences about why you think it is doing, assuming you're talking to a class 5 student. Followed by, if you can, connect it to a theory or create a theory of your own, and then share the video with me. I want to see how creative you can get, how much visualization power you have. And that will be one of the things that we'll be working on while we are in the physics class. We'll be working on how to visualize better and how to think more creative manners by taking away the garbage of all the things that we have learned already. Instead of opening our eyes, often they limit our imagination. So we'll be working on that. So everybody with me so far? Yes? No? Are you guys going to do this activity? Do this video recording and send it to me? Yes, so Ayush is saying yes, Maniratna is saying yes, Purnima is saying yes, great, great. Others, what about others? So you can take a screenshot of this screen. So you can get the assignment better. You can refer to it later on. You have my WhatsApp number. You can ideally send it to here if you do not want to post this on the public forum. If you want to post it on the public forum, that is nothing stopping you. You can do that and tag us. That will be another way of that I can go through your videos. That'll be a more interesting way of going through your videos. If you are already there on Facebook on Instagram. If you are not, you can simply send it to my WhatsApp. That is also okay. So far, you're doing this activity. This is very important. Okay. All right. What about others? What about Palak, Mayuk, Srijita, Ritam? Are you guys with me or not? Avishi, Ankita. All right, great. So now with this in the back, and I'm not going to discuss about this activity at all. I want you guys to think about it and then talk to me about it. Then we'll take it up in the next class probably. If sufficient number of people have sent me their videos, then we'll be taking it up in the next class, or we'll be taking it up whenever a sufficient number of people have sent me their videos, taking the different takes on this topic. Okay, and one clear thing: do not be limited by what you have learned. Use your imagination as much as you can to come up with the best way to explain this phenomena to a 5-year-old. Okay. All right. So then we come back to our Sir Isaac Newton. So do you recognize this page? Have you seen this page ever? Have you heard of or read any of the words that is mentioned in this page? कोथा देखा छो तुमरा कहीं देखे हो इसको? Have you seen this page anywhere? No. So see, so then this is an information, history of physics. Newton's Principia. Principia was the name of the paper that Newton published to talk about his 3 laws of motion. So he called it the mathematical principles or natural philosophy, which was translated by somebody else, and he called it Newton's system of the world. So Newton had published something called Principia Mathematica. Which basically meant mathematical principles. It talked about what Newton referred to as natural philosophy. So in that sense, Newton considered himself as a philosopher more than a scientist. So in his pursuit of philosophy, he came up with the laws of motion, the laws of gravitation. He came up with something called calculus. He came up with his bouts with light, refraction, reflection, and the other things that you guys are going to research. What else Newton has contributed to the field of science and math, or to the field of STEM rather, science, technology, engineering, and math. And you are going to send it to me on my number. Actually write down, research a bit about it. So, the good thing about information, you can gather information independently. A teacher is needed to convert that information into knowledge or wisdom. So I really want you to start collecting information on your own self independently. That is why I want you to do this exercise again. Try to find out what are the contributions of Newton in the field of science, technology, engineering, and math, and send that to me. We can discuss that again once enough number of people have sent it. So we can purely dedicate a class on all the findings of Newton, and we can dedicate our understanding to increase our understanding, so that our information that Newton has done this can be converted to knowledge. Again, everybody with me so far? Are you guys going to do this? Send me the list of findings or contributions of Newton. Yes or no? Okay. All right. So then we come back to the information that we already have, the 3 laws of motion, first law, second law, and third law. And I'll try to help you convert that to knowledge instead of keeping it as information only. So tell me, so what do you understand by the first law of motion, the first law of Newton's first law of motion? क्यों बोलो? What is the first law of motion? Newton's first law of motion. What is Newton's first law of motion? Does anybody know the first law of motion verbatim? What exactly Newton said? Or roughly in that zone? Key evolution in Newton in the first law of motion. See, I am not going to teach you unless you are contributing to the class. Okay. So that is one bad habit that I have. You have to interact, otherwise there is no class. So you have to tell me what the first law of motion is. What is Newton's first law of motion? Because I know you guys know this already. There is no point rehashing information that you already know. So I want you guys to tell what the first law of motion is, and then we'll discuss about the first law of motion to understand it better. I guess some of you are writing it. Let's see. I'll wait for a couple of minutes so that you can write the answer, then we can take it forward from there. क्यों लिखो की? So she has said that if it states that if a body is at rest, so she has sent it directly to me. If a body is at rest or moving at a constant speed, it will remain at rest or keep moving at constant speed unless it is acted upon by a force. Everybody in agreement with this statement, or is something missing or incorrect about this? She is saying that a body in rest and a body in moving in a constant speed, you cannot do control C, control V on Zoom, I think. You can. Try it out. I could not do it yesterday. I tried really a lot to do some control C, control V yesterday. I am using a laptop only. I cannot do it. Try doing it here. Oh, you Google control C, control V from Google. Okay, so let's talk about this definition. Let's see if this definition is correct or not. So, a body at rest or moving with constant speed. Hey, but Rita, one more thing. Why were you Googling? Did you not know about the definition? Okay, all right. So you are like the class monitor. All right. So yeah, so it says, so the Google's definition, let's call it the Google's definition then, since Ritam calls it that. So it says if a body is in rest or if a body is moving with constant speed, unless an external force acts on it, it will continue to remain in that same state. What do you think? Is this definition complete, incomplete? Because you guys have studied Newton's laws of motion in class 7 and 8. I know about that. Or maybe 6 also. So what do you think? Is this a complete definition of Newton's laws of motion? The first law of motion? Or is something missing? Any idea? Is anything missing? Is this the perfect definition? What about Ritam, Maniratna, Oishi? Is this the most perfect definition that is possible of Newton's first law of motion? Or is there something missing about it, in it? So let us look back. It's perfect, you think, okay? I think there are a lot of things missing in this first law of motion. So if you really think, what is Newton trying to say? What is Newton trying to say over here? He's trying to say that force can do some things. What can force do? So I have one slide exactly on that. So I'll go to directly to that slide right now. So Newton actually, so did you know that there was no concept of force before Newton defined force? This definition was the definition of force as given by Newton. And you guys have come across this definition, yes or no? A force can move a stationary object. You have read this definition, right? So let us go through it one by one. It can move a stationary object. So when you are giving in the definition, a body in rest, it stays in rest. This is captured over here. A force can stop a moving object. So a body in motion can cease to be in motion. A force can change the speed of a moving object. That is also being captured in the definition that you have given. A force can change the direction of a moving body. Is this getting captured in the definition of force? In the first law of motion? In the first law of motion that you have given. So what do you mean by mode of motion, Ayush? Do you mean the direction of motion, the magnitude of motion, or just need something else? So yeah, see, this one line is one of the most critical lines in the first law of motion. This is the one of the most critical contributions of first law of motion to the understanding of this concept called force. Okay. And what followed, this last one, is actually a definition of force which was not given by Newton. Once we understood the implication of force, what really force meant after studying the Newton's first law of motion, then we could come up with our own understanding, and then we understood that really the same thing which is causing all this is also causing deformation in bodies. Okay. So that is how the last line came up. This last line came up much later, much after Newton, when we studied something called statics. When Newton's laws came in, the definition of the force was this 1, 2, 3, 4 statements. And the most critical statement of it all is the last statement. I'll tell you why. So let's go back to our understanding of. So one thing that is missing over here is the concept of direction. So suppose there is a body which is moving at 3 meters per second towards. So suppose this is the north of the slide, and it is moving say towards the north. Just forget that I have tilted it a bit. Say a force is applying towards this direction. Would it change the speed of the body? Would it stop the body? Yes or no? If a body is moving with a speed of 3 meters per second in the north direction, and a force is acting on it towards the east, would this force stop the body from moving? Yes or no? No. It will not stop the body from moving. Will it change the direction? Oh, sorry, will it change the magnitude? Will it change the speed of the body? So the answer here is it may or may not. So the question that I was asking Purnima is, if the force is applied towards east when the body is moving towards north, will the force change the speed of the body? Yes or no? So there is no right answer to this. The answer is it may or may not change the speed of the body. No, it can change the speed of the body. It can definitely change the speed of the body. It just might not change the speed of the body. One such example of the speed of the body not changing. So it can change the speed of the body. The data is not sufficient to tell whether it will change the speed of the body or not. So suppose it's in the case of a circular motion. Suppose there is a body which is continuously changing its direction. Is moving with say 3 meters per second all the time in the circular motion. There is a force which is called the centripetal force. Which is always, Ayush, it can change the magnitude also. It can change the speed also. But it might not change the speed. That is all I am saying. It can always change the speed, even if it is applying in a. So we'll come to this. We'll come to vector, something called vector summations right after this. So when it is applying in an oblique fashion, what really happens is it might change the speed, it might not change the speed. I'm talking about a specific example in which a force is not changing the speed. So this is an example of a circular motion wherein a body, wherein this body, which is tied to a rope and is probably in your finger, is continuously rotating at a speed of 3 meters per second. If the current version of the Newton's first law of motion that you have given, if that was true, I would ideally read that this body is continuously in motion with the same speed, and as a result, there is no force acting on it. I could have simply said it, right? If the version that was given over here, that a body in rest stays in rest, or a body in motion stays in motion with the same speed, unless an external force is acting on it. So conversely, I can say that if a body continues in its state of rest, or if it continues in its state of motion with the same speed, there is no external force acting on it, or there is a net zero external force acting on it. I can always make that deduction. But in this specific example, in where a body is rotating with the same speed, a body cannot rotate with a force. So a body rotates because I have a tension force which is pulling the body back. Otherwise, the body would have flown straight in this direction. You should try cutting. You should try actually doing an exercise under adult supervision, that you should take a rope, actually try to rotate an object around it, and with a sharp object, cut the rope while you're rotating. You'll see it will not rotate anymore. It is rotating because of the tension of the rope, because of the pull that you have on the object. It is your force that is continuously changing its direction. So this direction bit is the most important concept in Newton's first law of motion, apart from the definition of force itself. And the reason for that is it introduces a concept of vector quantities. It introduces a concept of direction, and it introduces a concept of directions in mathematics. Everybody with me so far? Ayush, Maniratna, Mayuk, Palak, Shubham, Ankita, Ritam, Purnima. Great. So we are clear. So the one definition, one part. So see, that is what I was trying to say. I will not repeat the Newton's first law of motion. So I was saying that in this case, so if what was the definition that was given, I will just read it out. Ritam, can you read out the definition from your Google or copy paste it? So yeah, the definition that was given is a body remains in state of rest. A body in state of rest will remain in state of rest. A body in motion will continue in its state of motion with the same constant speed, unless an external force acts on it. Okay, so that is what the definition was given. So only rest and constant speed of motion was covered. Now I gave you an example of a circular motion in which you are holding a string. You're holding a string with a stone tied to the other end, or a ball tied to the other end, or a pen tied to the other end, and you're continuously rotating. Once you're continuously rotating that, it is possible that the object, whatever you're holding at the end of the string, will continuously rotate at the same speed of say 3 meters per second. If I go by the definition of the first law of motion that you guys gave, I would say that since this body is in constant speed, the net force acting on it should be zero, because it is maintaining its state of motion at a constant speed. But that is not right. That is not right, because it will not break at a certain moment. It will not break at a certain moment. You should try playing something called a yo-yo. Have you seen a yo-yo? Have you seen a yo-yo? Yes. So in a yo-yo, I've been playing a lot with yo-yos, and right from a cartoon that I cannot remember the name of the cartoon that came, Yo-Yo Champs or something like that. So back in class 2, so I got a yo-yo. I've been playing a lot with it. One of that was involved a lot of spinning around the yo-yo, and it never breaks. unless you are superhuman and you're, you know, going beyond the tensile limit of the. Yes, yo-yo was very fun. It's still fun. You can actually harbor a hobby of playing with the yo-yo even when you're old. It is actually a good time, pastime, and it increases your hand-eye coordination a lot. So yeah. So what I was saying is, so in circular motion, you cannot attain circular motion without an external force. But once we give the definition of Newton's first law of motion to only consider rest and constant speed, we have an issue because this certain example gets missed out. And what gets missed out is the concept of direction. So, and why is the concept of direction important? And why is it, why I'm saying that apart from the definition of force itself, the concept of direction is one of the major contributions of first law of motion, is because it introduces a concept of vector quantities and introduces a concept of direction in the world of mathematics. Before that, mathematics was all about scalars. We used to add 1 plus 1, 2, 2 plus 2, 3. Can 1 plus 1 be equal to 1? Might be. It is very possible. If we study directional mathematics, or what we call vector mathematics. Is 1 plus 1 equal to 1 possible? Is 1 plus 1 equal to 0 possible? Everything is possible in the directional mathematics, in the vector mathematics. We're going to talk about this, how this is possible, how this is not possible. Is 1 plus 1 is equal to 3 possible? This is possibly not possible. But 1 plus 1 can be anything ranging from 0 to 2. We'll show this, how this is there in the vector mechanics, in vector mathematics. Okay, we'll talk about this either in this class towards the end or in the next class. So now, we were talking about the first law of motion. So what should be the ideal statement of the first law of motion? Ideal statement should be, and I think the ICC books covers it like this only. If you go through the physics book, it says that a body in rest stays in rest. A body in motion stays in motion with the same speed and same direction. Or a few of the smarter authors write it like this: a body in motion stays in motion with the same velocity. So when Newton gave out the law, the concept of velocity did not exist. It was only speed. Because vectors came in after Newton, the concept of velocity came in after the Newton's laws were there. Okay. So this is not the right way of defining. The right way of defining is this. This is how Newton defined it. It said a body in motion will stay in motion with the same speed as well as the same direction unless an external force acts upon it. So without external force acting on it, a body in rest will stay in rest. A body in motion will have the same speed and will have a unidirectional motion. It will always keep on moving in the same direction. Does this make sense? Are you so 5 minutes back se pehle abhi thoda sa zyada pata hai? Do you know a bit more about Newton's first law of motion than 5-10 minutes back? Okay, that is great. So that is what I was saying. So instead of giving you new information, I should be able to convert your information to knowledge and plug in the information gaps whichever is there. Now let's talk about the second law of motion. What is the second law of motion? And Googling is allowed. There is nothing wrong with copying things from Google, but there is nothing wrong with it. So far you're trying to understand it once you have copied it. So I want you guys to actually tell me what is the second law of motion. I'll wait for a couple of minutes again. So Ayush is saying that the rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the force applied on the body. Okay. So he's saying that force applied is directly proportional to rate of change in momentum. I'll come to this. But now again the same question: is this the whole definition, or is there something missing in this definition also? It's good, Ayush, that you did not copy it. But come on, chalo. Ankita, Shubham, Ritam, batao. Is this the whole definition, or is there something missing over here? Purnima, Srijita, Mayuk, Palak, Maniratna. You guys have slept off, I think. অনেক ক্লাস হচ্ছে এবার ঘুম পাচ্ছে. Is that the case? So I am saying that the definition that Ayush has given, so Maniratna, that definition is not right. So the first part of the definition is right. The second part of the definition, or for an object with, okay, so yeah, with the constant mass you can say that. With the constant mass you can say that. So it's one of the facets of so the first statement is sufficient. The law states that the rate of change of momentum of an object is directly proportional to the force applied. But still, this is not the complete definition. Can somebody spot out what is missing? This is the same definition that Ayush had given, Maniratna. And again, I am saying that this definition is not complete. Can anybody spot the missing part of this definition, the missing part of the puzzle? It's very similar to what was missing in the first part also. Mayuk does not know. Any idea? Anybody else? What is missing in this definition? What is missing in this statement of the law? Direction, absolutely. So what would be the statement to, what I would be the ideal statement to get the direction bit? Yes, tell me, Maniratna. So force is a vector quantity. It depends on direction. So that Pandora's box was opened. Okay. So that Pandora's box was opened when Newton gave the first law of motion, when he said that the direction of motion can also not change unless a force is acting upon it. So the force somehow is related to direction. So when he is giving out the second law of motion, in which in the first law of motion he has qualitatively defined force, in the second law of motion he is trying to quantify force. So once he is trying to quantify force, so force is directly proportional to the rate of change in momentum is fine. That is giving me the quantity of force. But that Pandora's box has been opened now with the first law, the Pandora's box of direction. So since I'm trying to now quantitatively define what force is, I should also define what the direction of the application of force would be. So what can be a statement? What can be a statement to cover this aspect? Any idea? Can you think of something? So let us not waste time on this, or I'll just give it out. So what Newton said is, so the first statement is absolutely correct. The first statement what Ayush or Maniratna has given is absolutely correct, that the rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the amount of force applied on the body, amount of external force applied on the body. Okay, external force. Just force has no meaning in Newton. External force. And that said, he said, and the direction of the force will be in the same direction as the change in momentum. Make sense? Yes, no? Give me a thumbs up or a yes if you are comfortable so far about what I said about the direction. Great. So Ayush is okay. What about others? Maniratna has also responded. ये बाकीरा पक्का घुमाচ্ছে. Palak is also not sleeping. She is proving that. Okay. All right. Great. So you guys are with me right now. So I have covered this first law of motion, the second law of motion, the statements. Now I'm going to break a news to you. The statements are still wrong. Okay, Ritam beche ache. Great. The statements, both the statements that we discussed so far is horribly wrong. is grossly wrong. So what did we discuss so far? I'll recount the first law of motion that we discussed. A body in rest stays in rest, or a body in motion stays in motion in the same direction with the same speed, unless it is acted upon by an external force. This is the first law of motion that we discussed, our version of it. And the second law of motion said that the rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to the force applied on the body, and the force is applied on the direction of the change, and the change of direction, change of momentum happens in the direction of the applied force, or vice versa. Or we can say that the force applied is in the direction of the change in momentum. These are the two laws that we have studied a lot of times, but I'm still saying that these two laws, the way we are describing it, is very, very grossly incorrect. Can you guys, anybody has any idea? Does anybody have any idea which part? And I'm saying a very, very basic part of the definition is incorrect, what we are saying. Any idea what that part of the definition is? Hey, would you guys mind if I extend the class by 10 more minutes? So instead of finishing at 8:50, we'll finish it at 9. Okay, fine. So let's continue this. We are at a very crucial point of our discussion. So if you guys have, so should I just tell you what the mistake is, or do you guys want to guess and think about it? What the error that we are what is the error that we are doing when we are talking about? Thank you, Ayush. Yeah, so any idea what the error is, or should I just tell the error, or do you want to take some time to think about it? Okay, think about it then. So I think you should think about 2 more minutes. It's 8:45, 8:47. My answer batata hu. What was wrong in the way we have described Newton's laws of motion, or what is wrong in the way it is traditionally or in pop culture how Newton's law of motions are defined, what they are wrong about. So the statements that we have made: a body in rest stays in rest, a body in motion stays in motion with the same speed in the same direction, unless an external force acts on the body. This statement is absolutely the statement that is discussed in pop culture. And I call it pop culture because it is not correct. It is a cultural thing. People have picked up, the people of the generation have. No. The second line is not. I'm saying that the concept is wrong. The line or the language is not wrong. Some conceptually we are doing some mistake. And the statement that I'm making is the exact statement that you will find on Google, on Wikipedia. It can stay in constant motion. It can stay in constant motion. Let me show you a video. So you are thinking about it from the perspective of Earth. You have friction, you have gravity, you have air drag, which is stopping a lot of motion happening. But if it was really in space, this is a, you can, again, the guys who are in on Instagram, you can follow the International Space Station and you can follow this specific astronaut, McNally or something like that. I'll tell you the name in the next class. I forgot his name. I follow this guy. This guy had spent some 3 years in space in the International Space Station, has a world record for staying with the longest time in space. He had done a lot of experiments to showcase that Newton's laws of motions are correct. And one of them was this: a body in rest stays in rest unless it is acted upon by an external force. Similarly, this is a water bubble. Similarly, he has also shown that a body in motion stays in motion. And Newton is in fact correct. And it's the limitation of the earth that we are not able to see that feature. So grammatically, the statements are absolutely correct. The statements that we made about Newton's laws of motion: a body in rest stays in rest, a body in motion stays in motion in the same direction and with the same speed, unless it is acted upon by an external force, is absolutely correct grammatically. This is the same definition that is there in all pop culture resources. Similarly, the rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the amount of force applied on a body, and the direction of change of momentum takes place in the direction of the force applied. This is also absolutely correct and in tandem with all the literature that you can study in normal Googling, not in the research papers. So I'll just tell you what the error is. There is no point making you wait on it. So the first error is Newton's laws do not apply to bodies. Newton's laws do not apply to bodies. They only apply to particles, which are point masses. And as you will see in the next class, this makes the entire difference in the world. A body is a three-dimensional thing. This is a body. Newton's laws of motion are not applicable for this body. We can extend the concept to this body definitely, but this body ke upar Newton's laws of motions are not applicable. Newton's laws of motions are applicable only on particles, which are point masses, which are theoretically constructed point masses. Such masses are not possible in the real world. This is a theoretical way of understanding how the world behaves. This is a theory to explain a lot of phenomena in the world, but the basis of it is on particles. It is true only for particles. It is not true for right. So this is how I've been studying physics since 2009. So, and I know it. You know, if you really try to understand laws like this, there is something called INPHO, the Indian Physics Olympiad, and then there is something called IPHO. I missed going to the IPHO by one rank. You can go there. You can go there if you are actually fundamentally understanding each of the physics concepts. If you are trying to rebuke, you know, instead of accepting whatever people are saying, you have to give rebuttals. Where ye to sahi nahi hai, ye sahi hai, ye to sahi nahi, ye sahi hai. And you have to really read the books that you have from cover to cover. Sara points likhna. ऐसा नहीं कि you take a book, only go to the exercise, read the exercise. Read what is written in the book. Almost all the books have the right definition of Newton's laws of motion, in which it says that it is applicable only on particles, and we tend to oversee it, and as a result, it has become a body. Right. Now let us come to the third law of motion, Newton's third law of motion. What is this? Can anyone recount the Newton's third law of motion? Usually there are no mistakes when we talk about the third because there is not much that is said in the third law. It's about the implications of the third law where people are mistaken, usually. So yeah, so that is a partial statement again. So I'll just tell it out. So usually ICSE books में लिखा नहीं रहता है. So it is to every action there is an equal and opposite. There is an equal and opposite reaction. We know about this part. And the second statement is action and reaction. Rather, actually Newton said forces act in pairs, which basically means to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, and every single time a force cannot act on its own. There will always be a pair of forces that is acting. So if I am lifting up this glass is pulling me down. If I am lifting up this glass, the glass is pulling me down. My glass is equally trying to pull my hand down. That is the action reaction pair. And as soon as I started lifting it up, exactly at the same time, the glass also started lifting me down. If I have a full bottle of water, I'll be able to see it better. If I'm trying to pull the bottle of water up, the bottle of water is actually pulling me down. A lot of people have a lot of wrong conceptions about this. What they say is this is the earth, this is the bottle. I am putting a force to pull the bottle up. Say the force is P, and the earth is pulling the bottle down. This is mg. A lot of people say this is action and reaction. No, this is incorrect. Absolutely. When we are lifting the phone is pulling our hands down. That is action and reaction. When I'm lifting this bottle up, when I'm lifting this bottle up, the bottle is pulling my hand down. That is an action reaction pair. That is an action reaction pair. So like I was saying, not a lot of people are wrong about the statement of third law of motion, A lot of people are wrong about the implications of it. With me so far? With me so far? এখনো কিছু উপর দিয়ে যাওয়া শুরু হয়নি তো? Okay, great. Okay, all right. So next, so since we are talking about this, so we were saying that each and every force come in pairs, and I was saying that P is not the pair with mg. I am pulling this as up, this is being pulled down by earth, that is not the pair. I am pulling this up, this is pulling my hand down, that is the pair. So what happens to this force? Is this a Lavaris force? This mg, the weight of this bottle, is that a Lavaris force, or does it also have a pair? It also has a pair. So when earth is pulling on this bottle with a force of mg, this bottle is also pulling on earth with a force of mg. To every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. When the earth is pulling this bottle down, that is an action. The reaction is the bottle is pulling the earth up with the same amount of force. Action and reaction cannot ever work on the same body. If an action is happening on a body, yes, Ayush, tell me. Do you want me to mute you? Unmute you? Okay, I'm unmuting. It is not letting me unmute you. So I'll make you co-host. Just you can unmute yourself.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Ayush.
Sir, my question was, what happens when we push a wall?
When we push a wall, so the wall pushes me back. So it's I'll explain it to you like this. Do not push a wall, punch a wall. What will happen to your hand?
It will pain.
Right. So why is it paining? The wall is pushing you back. The wall is punching you back. So whenever you're trying to understand some action reaction pair, take it to the extreme. Do not push anything. Just kick on it or punch on it. So once I'm punching on the wall is also exerting equal amount of force on my hand, and which is why my hand might get fractured.
Yeah.
So that is the action reaction pair. My hand is hitting the wall. The wall is also hitting my hand. Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much. The doubt is clear.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else has any doubt about this 3 laws of motion? And do you guys have a better perspective about the law of motion or not? That is one primary question. Otherwise, this would have been a waste of time, the last half an hour. Ekdam absolutely clear? So now, what we are going to do today, we are going to stop the class right here. Okay. Again, this is another class in which I am not taking a class quiz. The reason for that is I want you to really focus on. So there is nothing objective that I've taught. There is a very conceptual things that I've taught you. I do not really want to quiz you on that. I want to quiz you on application of the concepts. That will be more relevant. So we'll possibly start it from the next or next to next class. In physics, in maths, it will start from the next class definitely, because we are already into a lot of applications there. So what we are going to do now, we are going to stop now. Okay, so we have covered the 3 laws of motions in detail. We have not talked about the implication of any law apart from the third law. So we are next going to talk about the implication of the laws. So in which we are going to take a fresh look on the concept of momentum, inertia, and force. We are going to see the definition of force in detail. Okay, and we will understand the concept of what do we mean by delta P by delta T. I wrote this, right? When somebody said that force is directly proportional to delta, rate of change in momentum, I wrote this expression. So we're going to take a deeper look at what this means. And by the end of next class, we will be arriving at this expression F equals to ma, and we will be also sharing why this expression is wrong. Why this expression is actually an approximation and not the exact expression. We'll be talking all about that. while keeping in mind all the time that we are talking about particles. Okay. Then what we are going to talk about in the next class is again more fundamental concepts like the concept of absolute rest and absolute motion. What does Newton mean by? So Purnima, it is right in certain cases. It is not always right. So F equals to ma is not a universal statement. F equals to ma is a statement only when the mass is constant. This is not applicable for a situation when, say, we are sending a rocket into space. Yeah. It is only applicable when the mass is constant, and it is only applicable to particles, to small particles. It is not applicable to bodies. That is one more thing that we have to always be careful of when we are studying Newton's laws of motion. Even this formula, F is directly proportional to delta P by delta T, is only applicable to particles. It is not applicable to bodies. It is never applicable to bodies. 3D bodies, Newton's laws of motion, not applicable. As simple as that. We can use a version of Newton's laws of motion with some simplification of our understanding of 3D bodies. That is something that will come in to picture in the 4th, 5th class onwards. Okay, so we are going to spend the next 5 to 8 classes, the next 3 to 5 classes on forces. Depends on how quickly we can go ahead. That entirely depends on how much you are studying on your own in the weeks also. So if I'm able to totally entirely skip the definition of momentum, inertia, force, and instead talk about the implications and errors in these definitions that you have studied, that is actually going to take our class much faster, right? So let us revise once what we are going to submit in the next class, before the next class rather. One is this assignment. Yes or no? You have all agreed to submit this assignment to me. That you will be sending a video or either upload it on a social media platform by tagging me or send it to me on WhatsApp. This specific activity. Explaining it step by step to a class 5 student. And second, explaining your inferences, which will be open-minded, not bounded by what you have studied so far, at the level of a class 5 student, so that a class 5 student can watch the video and can understand. And what I will do is, I will actually choose the best video out of the lot and will actually play it in the physics class of class 5. So that way you can actually become a teacher for the students of class 5. Does that sound good? Yes. So this was the first assignment that I've given you. The second assignment is you have to find out the contribution of Newton in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. And you have to send this list to me. Once you guys send this list to me, only then we are going to discuss more about this topic. We are going to understand each of his contributions in more detail. Only when sufficient number of you have sent this video to me, will I talk about this experiment in more detail. What is my take on it? Absolutely, Ayush. So you can put it up on social media and people can see that this is your understanding of the thing. So you can always be incorrect. So you can also mention this. This is me using my open-minded imagination to explain this phenomena. I am not keeping myself bounded by Newton's laws of motion. And this is my take on it. So, people can also interact and give their inputs on it. It will be a very good learning experience. Right. Very exciting. So after you guys have done it, I'll also put up my video on this activity and my understanding on it. Does that sound right? Does that sound good? Everybody agreeing with these 2 deals that we had today? We'll not discuss about these topics unless people have submitted their entries. Okay. So, all right. Great. It was awesome trying to interact with you. It's difficult to interact in an online setup. But yeah, I now know some of your faces. That's a good plus after this class. So next class again, we'll start off with, another photograph of the class. And we'll hope that everybody shows their faces there. Okay, all right. So if there are no doubts, we can close the class now. Yeah. So I don't think there are any more doubts. So we can all leave now. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Ayush. You have been the most interactive in the class, and that actually helped me teach a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.